What's up, guys? It's Zach, and welcome back to Pickups, Pedals, Amps, and Tone Shaping. And today we are going to be talking about stacking overdrives and distortions. Before I go any further, let's see the guitar. I'm using Custom Built Guitars Semi-Hollow T. This is a wonderful, beautiful sounding guitar, amazing neck, and you can go look at my Facebook and website and see more in-depth pictures and reviews of this stuff. But Custom Built Guitars is a wonderful one. So let's talk about stacking drives. Let's talk about why you would do this. First of all, a lot of the stuff you hear recorded on the radio or recorded on records or on the radio, iTunes, whatever, is not as gainy as you think it is. Um, by the time everything gets mixed together, it's just kind of what you hear. That's why a lot of times when you try to record guitar yourself, at least in my history of recording stuff, a lot of times I'll have my pedals set for live, and then when I get in the studio, I'm like, wow, this sounds really spitty and just thin and brittle. Um, and it's because it's the way it translates to tape and the way the microphones pick up those characters. So, first things first, a lot of things you're hearing are not as gainy as you think. Now, that being said, we don't stack drives and distortions or drive pedals and amps, cranked up amps, to get more overdrive or more grit or more distortion. Now it does add more grit to it, but it's more of a tonal shaping thing. Um, for example, Led Zeppelin, when Jimmy Page was cutting one of the songs, and I don't remember what song it was, but a lot of guys loved the tone that he had, so they bought walls of Marshalls to try to get that Jimmy Page sound that he used on that song, and he was using like a little 10-inch speaker or something like that, really small speaker, amp or combo or whatever. So the thing is like it's not always bigger and more distortion. So that's not really why you stack a drive pedal with distortion, is to just get more. That's like pouring a bottle of water on somebody that's swimming. It's not really going to do anything, right? Because there's already enough there. So that's the whole theory behind it, is more of a tonal shaping. Now it does add a little more grit, obviously, but it's more of like shaping the tone and just kind of bringing a little bit more hair to the party and just getting a little more meaty. But also, it's the characteristic of the pedal that you put in front of it. So let's start off. I'll let you hear my clean signal. It has delay and reverb on it. So here's the clean signal. All right, so let me show you my distortion. Again, there's ground stuff in here, so overlook the noise floor. So it's a good sounding distortion. It's not really Marshall in a box or Mesa in a box. It's just kind of a good distortion. So let's talk about stacking a drive on this and why we would. All right, so I've got a good rhythm distortion. It would work good for solos, and it works. Now the thing is, a lot of times when people put drive pedals in front of amps, like say you put a tube screamer in front of a Marshall, obviously yes, it's going to add more grit, but it's not to just pour on the distortion and then pour on the signal distortion. It's kind of to add that tone shape. Now, I'll show you. I'm using the Pride of Texas Billionaire series by Dan Electro for this, and it's kind of got that Stevie Ray Vaughan kind of TS9 thing going. So again, clean. Now let me hear you this. Let me let you hear the drive pedal. Now again, this is more set EQ tonally for a neck pickup. All right, but it's got a little bit more of a mid. It's kind of got that mid emphasis. That is what the main point of running an overdrive in front of a distortion does. It adds a little bit more of a mid frequency boost and a little bit more grit, but it just kind of helps it stand out. So let's hear the difference. All right, so clean. Let's go to distortion pedal on. All right, overdrive on. Distortion only. Adding the overdrive in. Distortion only. Overdrive in. Distortion only. Overdrive in. So you can hear it kind of enhances the mid-range, and again, it does add more grit, but it's not the point of just pouring on more distortion. I could get that out of my pedal. It's the tonal characteristic that it puts in front of it. See, the thing is about drive pedals is that we have a pedal, we set for drive. Now, if I turn my guitar down, let's go just distortion only. Watch when I turn my volume down. Now, in addition to the volume going down, you don't have as much drive. Because of the way the gain stage of the pedal is, and it's the volume hitting the drive, just like an amp. If you plug in a guitar that's hotter, you know that's going to have more drive on the amp because you're hitting the preamp harder. That's the way pedals are designed too. When you hit it with more line signal, then it's going to have more of a gainy sound than if you use a guitar that had lower output pickups, or if you just turn your volume down. Which is why you go back, a lot of guys would clean up their signal with their volume pot on their guitar, and then would go to solo, they would turn it up, and it not only does it add more volume, but more grit because of the line level hitting the front of the amp. Mumbo jumbo out of the way. Now, what we do is by putting an overdrive in front of it, it changes the way your signal hits the pedal and after it. Okay, so you have your distortion. By putting an overdrive in front of it, it changes the rate, or the signal rather, that my guitar is hitting the distortion pedal, and it's adding the characteristics of that mid-enhanced, kind of a little bit gritty, right? But it's mid-enhanced, and it's more of the tone that we're putting in front of it. So to do that, it does increase, and it kind of gives it that old, just kind of Marshall-y cranked, amps about to feedback, really mid-heavy presence in there. So it just adds a lot more than just grit. It adds more of the mids, frequencies that really make a guitar stand out. If you look at the frequency range of instruments, guitar doesn't take up as much as we like to think it does, right? We're guitar players, we like to think we want to hear all the frequencies. Well, really what translates is more of in that mid-range. It's why a lot of guys like Bonamassa and stuff will boost like 500 around there, is because it makes it stand out, and it adds more mids and then more presence. Not presence like sparkly high-end, but literal authority presence, like it adds more oomph in your tone. So again, it's not just to stack pedals to go, ooh, I want my guitar to sound like a chainsaw. It's literally to change the characteristic. So what you do is you start off with a good distortion. And then you start off and get you a good overdrive setting. So clean, overdrive in. And by adding that mid-range in, again, back to back to distortion. Let's throw the overdrive back in. So there you go. Adds more characteristic, adds more tone, and just adds a little bit more grit. But mainly, it's the EQ that pedal, the overdrive pedal that's before the distortion, that's doing a lot of the changing. Not so much just, again, let's pour more distortion on distortion, or more overdrive on top of distortion, but it's more the tonal characteristics that you're hearing change that just adds a little bit different in the front side of it, which changes the whole sound. So again, you guys keep experimenting with your pedals, have fun. We'll see you guys next week.